How does a man volunteer at a suicide prevention hotline, save a toddler from drowning in a lake, and study law by day while strangling young women by night? Ted Bundy did not look like a monster. He looked like someone you would trust with your life. And dozens of women did exactly that. By the time investigators across 7 states began comparing notes, something far worse than anyone imagined had already been set in motion. And the most terrifying detail of all? It was hiding in plain sight from the very beginning. But to understand how we got here, we need to go back to the Pacific Northwest in 1974, when young women began vanishing from places that should have been safe. Linda Ann Healy was 21 years old. She was a psychology major at the University of Washington, a weekend ski instructor, and she read the morning weather reports on a local radio station. Her roommates described her as meticulous, the kind of person who never left a dish in the sink. On the night of January 30th, 1974, Linda went to bed in her basement apartment near campus. By morning, she was gone. Her nightgown was still in the bed, stained with blood. The top sheet had been carefully folded back, as if someone had taken great care to make everything look normal. Her roommates did not realize she was missing until she failed to show up for her radio broadcast. Within months, more women disappeared. Donna Gail Manson, 19, a music student at Evergreen State College, left her dorm to attend a jazz concert on March 12th and never arrived. Susan Elaine Rancourt, 18, vanished from the campus of Central Washington State College on April 17th after an evening advisors meeting. Roberta Kathleen Parks, 22, disappeared from Oregon State University on May 6th while walking to get coffee with a friend. These were not runaways. These were not women who lived risky lives. They were students, daughters, sisters, women with plans for their futures. They had one thing in common that would not become clear for months. Each of them had long hair parted in the middle. Remember that detail. And here is something else investigators would later discover. In the weeks before each disappearance, students on those campuses reported a polite, handsome young man wearing an arm sling, asking women for help carrying books to his tan Volkswagen Beetle. Nobody thought to write down his license plate. On July 14, 1974, a Sunday afternoon at Lake Sammamish State Park near Seattle, the temperature climbed above 90 degrees. Thousands of people packed the park. At approximately 12:30 p.m., 23-year-old Janice Ott was lying on her beach towel when a young man approached. He had his left arm in a sling, and he introduced himself as Ted. He was polite, well-spoken, attractive. He asked Janice if she could help him load a sailboat onto his car. She smiled, gathered her things, and walked away with him. Multiple witnesses saw her leave. One woman later told police, "He was so charming, I almost went with him myself." That woman's decision not to go may have saved her life. 4 hours later, at approximately 4:30 p.m., Denise Nasland, 19, left her friends to use the restroom. She never came back. 2 women, gone from the same park, on the same afternoon, in broad daylight, surrounded by thousands of people. Bundy understood something fundamental about human trust. A smile, a sling, and a reasonable request could override every survival instinct a person possessed. But he had made one mistake. He had used his real first name. 5 witnesses told police the man with the sling was called Ted. At least 2 described a tan Volkswagen Beetle. In the fall of 1974, the disappearances in Washington stopped. Then women began vanishing in Utah and Colorado. On August 16, 1975, at 2:30 a.m., a Utah Highway Patrol sergeant named Bob Haywood was sitting in his patrol car in a subdivision in Granger, a suburb of Salt Lake City. A tan Volkswagen Beetle drove past him with its headlights off. Haywood flashed his lights. The Beetle accelerated. After a brief pursuit, the driver pulled over. The driver was calm, cooperative, and well-dressed. He identified himself as Ted Bundy, a law student at the University of Utah. Haywood searched the car and found a ski mask, a crowbar, handcuffs, trash bags, an ice pick, and a pair of pantyhose with eye holes cut out. Bundy explained them away. The ski mask was for skiing. The handcuffs were a curiosity. It was a paper-thin explanation. But it was 1975, and there was no database connecting cases across state lines. Meanwhile, in Seattle, a woman named Elizabeth Klopfer was losing sleep. Klopfer had been Bundy's girlfriend since 1969. The composite sketch on the evening news looked like Ted. The description of the Volkswagen matched Ted's car. The name the Lake Sammamish witnesses gave was Ted. In the fall of 1974, Klopfer had called the King County Police tip line and given them Bundy's name. She called again in 1975. Both times, detectives reviewed his name against their suspect list. Both times, they let it go. Bundy was a clean-cut law student with no criminal record. He did not fit their profile. What profile could possibly fit a man like this? On December 30, 1977, in the Garfield County Jail in Glenwood Springs, Colorado, Bundy crawled into the ceiling through a light fixture in his cell. He had lost over 30 pounds to fit through the 12-inch square opening. He navigated the crawl space to a jailer's apartment, dropped into an empty closet, walked out the front door, and disappeared into the night. By the time anyone noticed he was missing 17 hours later, Bundy was already on a bus heading south. In the early hours of January 15, 1978, less than 3 weeks after his escape, Ted Bundy entered the Chi Omega sorority house at Florida State University in Tallahassee. It was approximately 2:45 a.m. He moved through the house in near silence. He attacked Lisa Levy, 20, and Margaret Bowman, 21, with such ferocity that the oak log he used as a weapon shattered against the bed frame. Both women died. In adjacent rooms, he attacked Kathy Kleiner and Karen Chandler, leaving them with shattered jaws and deep lacerations. They survived. The entire assault lasted less than 15 minutes. On the body of Lisa Levy, the medical examiner documented something unusual, a bite mark on her left buttock. It was deep, deliberate, and remarkably well preserved. Dr. Richard Souveron, a forensic odontologist, was brought in to examine it. He compared the impression to dental molds taken from Bundy's teeth. The alignment was precise. The bite mark became the centerpiece of the prosecution's case and one of the earliest high-profile uses of forensic odontology in an American murder trial. On February 9, 1978, Bundy committed his final known act of violence. He abducted 12-year-old Kimberly Leach from her junior high school in Lake City, Florida during school hours. She had left her classroom to retrieve a purse she had forgotten. She never came back. Her remains were found 2 months later in an abandoned pig shed 35 miles away. Kimberly Leach was the youngest known victim. She was in the 7th grade. Ted Bundy confessed to 30 murders. Investigators who worked the case believe the actual number is significantly higher. Some estimates place it above 100. Bundy himself hinted at more in his final interviews, but refused to give specifics. There are still unidentified remains from the Issaquah hillside. There are still missing women from the 1970s in states Bundy traveled through whose cases were never closed. We remember the name Ted Bundy. We should remember instead the names of those he took: Linda Ann Healy, Donna Manson, Susan Rancourt, Roberta Parks, Janice Ott, Denise Nasland, Melissa Smith, Laura Aim, Karen Campbell, Kimberly Leach, and so many others whose lives were measured in futures that never arrived. Somewhere in the Pacific Northwest, in the Colorado Rockies, in the swamps of northern Florida, there are places only Bundy knew about, places he never revealed.